He was the perfect neighbor, always smiling, always polite, the kind of man who waved first and never forgot your name. But behind that quiet house, behind the neatly trimmed lawn, there was a locked basement, and when it was finally opened, everything changed. This story takes place in a quiet suburban neighborhood in the United States. In the early 2000s, a place where children rode bikes in the evenings, where doors were left unlocked, where nothing ever really happened. At the center of this story was a man named Daniel Harper. In his late 40s, single, quiet, friendly to everyone around him. Daniel was the perfect neighbor. But this story is not about who he appeared to be. It's about who he really was. Daniel moved into the neighborhood in 1998. He bought a modest 2-story house at the end of the street. Nothing unusual about it. White walls, small porch, a backyard surrounded by a wooden fence. Neighbors remember him as calm. He kept to himself, but never seemed distant. He helped carry groceries, fixed a broken mailbox for an elderly couple, even watched a neighbor's dog when they were away. People trusted him. They felt safe around him. But there was one thing that always stood out. Daniel never allowed anyone inside his house. Not once. If someone needed help, he came outside. If someone offered to visit, he politely refused. And if anyone asked about his basement, he changed the subject. At first, no one thought much of it. Everyone has their privacy. Everyone has their habits. But over time, small things began to feel off. A neighbor once reported hearing strange noises late at night. Not loud, not clear, just something. Another neighbor mentioned a strange smell, faint but unpleasant, like something rotting. But again, nothing confirmed. No complaints, no police reports, just whispers. And in a quiet neighborhood, whispers don't travel far. In 2003, everything changed. A young woman named Emily Carter went missing. She was 26 years old, worked at a local bookstore, friendly, responsible, known by many. The last time she was seen, she was walking home. Her apartment was just a few blocks away, but she never made it. Her phone was found, discarded near a roadside. Her bag missing. There were no signs of struggle, no witnesses, no clear direction. It was as if she had simply vanished. The community was shaken. Search teams were organized. Flyers were posted everywhere. Police began their investigation, but leads were almost non-existent. Detectives started with the usual steps: interviews, phone records, security footage. They spoke to friends, family, co-workers. Everyone said the same thing. Emily had no enemies, no known threats, no reason to disappear. Then they moved outward. They knocked on doors, spoke to neighbors, including Daniel Harper. He was calm, cooperative, answered every question. He said he had seen nothing unusual. He even expressed concern, offered to help if needed. To investigators, he seemed normal, just another neighbor. But something didn't sit right. Not enough to accuse, not enough to act. Just a feeling, and feelings aren't evidence. Weeks turned into months. The case began to slow. Media coverage faded. Search efforts reduced, and slowly, the neighborhood tried to return to normal, but not everyone moved on. Emily's family refused to give up. They kept pushing, kept asking questions, kept demanding answers, and eventually, their persistence led to something unexpected. In early 2004, police received an anonymous tip, short, vague, but disturbing. It mentioned a house at the end of the street and a basement that should be checked. No name was given, no explanation. Just that, at first, it seemed unreliable, but something about it matched the unease some officers had felt. So they decided to take a closer look. Detectives returned to Daniel Harper's house, this time with a warrant. Daniel opened the door, still calm, still polite, but something had changed. There was tension, subtle, but there. They informed him of the warrant. He didn't resist. He stepped aside. And for the first time, police entered the house. The interior was clean, almost too clean. Everything was organized. Nothing out of place, no signs of struggle, no obvious clues. It looked like the home of a man who valued control, who valued order. But then they reached the basement door, locked, heavy, different from the rest of the house. They asked for the key. Daniel hesitated, just for a second. Then he handed it over. The door opened slowly, and what they found changed everything. The smell hit first, strong, overwhelming. Officers stepped inside. The basement was dim, cold, and then they saw it. Evidence, disturbing, unmistakable. Items that did not belong, personal belongings, clothing, and worse, far worse. This was no longer a missing person case. This was a crime scene. Daniel Harper was arrested on the spot. He didn't fight, didn't run. He simply stood there, silent. As officers searched further, more evidence was found, not just linked to Emily, but to others, people who had gone missing over the years, cases that were never solved, now connected to one man, to one house, to one basement. During interrogation, Daniel remained quiet for hours, days. Then finally, he spoke. What he revealed shocked even experienced investigators. He had been hiding in plain sight for years, watching, waiting, choosing victims carefully, people who wouldn't raise immediate suspicion, people who could disappear without noise. He described his actions without emotion, without regret, as if it meant nothing, as if it was normal. But the most shocking part came later. Investigators discovered that some of the cases linked to Daniel dated back over a decade, long before he moved into the neighborhood. neighborhood, which meant this wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This was a pattern, a long, dark history that had gone unnoticed. And if not for that anonymous tip, it might have continued. The neighborhood was devastated. People couldn't believe it. The man they trusted, the man they smiled at every day, was responsible for something so horrific. Parents questioned everything. Neighbors replayed memories, looking for signs they had missed. But there were none, because Daniel had been careful, very careful. The trial began in late 2005. The courtroom was filled. Media returned. Details were revealed. Evidence presented, and the full extent of the crimes became clear.